Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Hsd School Board meeting for Tuesday, February 18th, 2020. Melissa, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Jason Giard?
Here.
Caitlin Parnell?
Here.
David Smith? James Sweeney?
Here.
Karen Yusenka?
Here.
Pinkerton Academy Student Liaison, Emma Johnston?
Here.
Thank you. And also seated at the board table is Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Earl Messler.
Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In your packets, you have two sets of minutes. The January 28th meeting and the non-public meeting from the same night, January 28th. So if I'm going to take a minute to review, and then I'll have a motion.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes, regular meeting January 28th, and also the non-public session of January 28th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments. Melissa, do we have any public comments this evening?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, next we have administrative reports. Mr. Collins.
Good evening. You've got my principal's report, so I'm not going to regurgitate what's written in front of you, but I just want to highlight a couple of really important things here. You might notice that we've hit that magical number of 490 kids. We were at the 470s at the beginning of the school year, so I actually ran into some people that I had their children a few years ago, and they asked me, how's things going at Central School? Is your enrollment still going down? And I said, nope. So we have basically 490 students. I think it's really important to point out that every single grade has grown except for fourth grade. So they're all over the place. It's not like we've got to push in one particular spot. There's a lot of early release tape and some professional development stuff that's highlighted in my report. I'd encourage you to take a look at some of the things. You might notice the big trend is a lot of it's in-house training. We've been training a lot of people over the years to do some of the training, like some of that work we've done on letters. We've got a couple of in-house trainers. We've got some CPR instructors in-house. We've got a teacher, she's nationally certified for brain pop, so there's some really good people training our staff. So we've got a great a group working with the school. The last thing I wanted to point out is we do vacation next week, but when we come back from vacation at Central School, we've been spending lots of hours rebuilding our schedule because we've been playing around with this enrollment surge and how to deal with the large lunch. I know a few people sitting at the table have been here for lunch buddies for second, third, or fourth graders. Well, it's going to be different after you come back from vacation because we are getting rid of the large third grade lunch and putting them their own, separated third grade lunch. They'll have their own lunch. Fourth grade will be just fourth grade. Second grade will be just second grade. You can see the schedule. This is like the tip of the iceberg. Scheduling is pretty immense underneath all of this. But for the children, what it's going to mean is all of our children will have a lunch followed by a recess on a daily basis. It'll be by grade level. This will improve some of the inner workings, like the long lines in lunch for second, third, and fourth grade have been challenging. And of course, I get involved with recess behaviors and all those other fun little pieces there. It's just gonna be far better for the children. It's been a lot of work. I just want to put out some big thanks to my staff that spent a lot of hours rebuilding. We only really rebuilt the middle of the day schedule because some academic and learning schedules. So I'm going to send a big blast out to all the parents to give them a heads up about this so they will know about it. We told the kids last weekend. I got lots of, yes, Mr. Collins, thank you. I don't want to be out there with so many kids. The cafeteria is too noisy. So I did the typical principal thing. Yes, it's wonderful. Now we can also work on some other things like talking to the people nearby in the cafeteria so it doesn't get so noisy. In fact, Dr. Cheney and I are going to go around and visit with all of the students in the next couple of weeks just to talk about things like that. But thank you.
I just have a couple of questions
Sure.
on the lunch stuff, just because it is a big change. I don't have anyone at Central School right now, so I'm not totally up on the times. How does this change? First of all, is it still the same amount of time for lunches?
Every child still gets a 25-minute lunch.
Okay.
We've been giving 30 for the kindergartners, but we think we can get it done in 25 minutes.
Okay, so they still get 25, and then how much earlier are they starting?
We've been starting lunches at 11:20, so we'll be actually starting them at 11 instead. But we'll actually get them done 5 minutes early if you look at them as a whole group. The children that are specifically in grade 1 and grade 3, the interruption in the middle of their day is about the same, but the lunch times do change. But I'll put this all over the website and put it out to the parents to notify everybody because of the lunch buddy visitors. Teachers are fully aware of all of the scheduling parameters around this.
Anyone else have questions?
I don't know. I mean, I think, looking at this, I think this is better for the grade 3. I mean,
Significantly.
It's gonna be better for the kids. Just wanna make sure that the rest of the building is on board with this.
Oh, trust me, there's been lots of conversation about, some of the things. We moved this little bit of a math lesson, you move this little bit of an intervention. The teachers have worked around it and said this is an opportunity to fix some pieces and adjust some pieces. Because we had a conversation, either do it in March or do it in September. We were going to do it either way. But after listening to most of the staff, they said, hey, let's just do this now.
Okay, and so now, if I'm reading this right, I just wanna be clear. Some of the kids now have recess first and then come in and have lunch.
Correct.
Based on this, they're all gonna eat lunch first and
Absolutely.
then go out for recess.
That was a significant gain.
So they won't be sitting there eating lunch in their wet snow clothes and boots and stuff.
That's one of many advantages.
I see that as a
Yeah.
huge advantage.
Mhm.
The kids don't have to come in from recess and be wet and sloppy and sit there and eat lunch.
To quote a couple fourth graders I had lunch with today, Mr. Collins, this is great. I can get all of my energy, then go burn it off outside.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mrs. Joseph, I believe you are presenting middle school tonight.
Welcome. Thank you. So we have a lot of great things happening in our building in this last month, and a ton more planned for the end of the year. But I'm just going to go over what Mrs. Denola had put down in her report. Our ABC Club, which is the anti-bullying club, is an awesome club that we have in our building, and they do a ton of things in our building. Like they did presentations to all of our 5th grade advisories. They performed Random Act of Kindness Week and got everybody on board to do different random acts. They sponsored Smile Day. They were out in front of the building greeting everybody, wearing smiling shirts for the whole day. Sponsored No Name Calling Week, Mix It Up Day. Recently they went to Atkinson Academy and presented to the 4th and 5th graders. And they, actually that night, Mr. Mayu, one of our school counselors, was out at an event, and some student approached him and said, hey, I know you, you were on the presentation today at our school, your students came to our school, it was one of the best presentations we ever had. So, and the student knew Mr. Mayu from the video that they showed. They also have collected over 3,000, or got our school to collect over 3,000
donations for St. Anne's Food Pantry, and collected about 160 toys at Christmas time for Toys for Tots. Our cheerleading squad, our spirit team, won first place 3 weekends in a row. The first at the Cheer Madness competition, the second at the Winter Spirit Invitational, and the third at the Tri-County competition. They are coached by Megan Shiganis and led by the captains Molly Sweeney, Jack McDonald, Maya Eaton, and Morgan Metzler. And each weekend we got texts saying they were even better this weekend, so our kids are doing a great job. They're also going to perform at our Winter Sports Night, which is February 19th. Our boys and girls A basketball team made it to the playoffs, and our girls B basketball team made it to the playoffs this year. They all lost in the first round, but they played an excellent season. And we want to thank Coach Arroyo, Tracy Flaherty, Ray Flaherty, and Coach Ingraham for coaching our kids this year. Our ski club had over 98 students that traveled to Pat's Peak, and they were skiing and snowboarding. Mrs. Corder ran that, and she also had a lot of parent volunteers who came to ride the bus, load the equipment, and just make sure our kids had fun and were safe. We want to thank all of them. Our volleyball season started with over 80 students participating. They won their first game, and they had a game today that was canceled because the other school canceled their after-school activities. The Lions Club did spot vision testing. They screened 334 students. They made 23 referrals, and they had said that typically they have 8 to 12% of the students referred, and our students, there were only 7%, which is great for us. We want to thank the Lions Club and Nurse Nielsen for organizing this and working hard to screen all of our students. Our 8th graders participated in a cookie fundraiser to offset their costs for the Washington, D.C. trip. They sold a little over 8,000 cookies, $8,000 worth of cookies. And today was the pickup, and I think out of 38 families, there's only 2 or 3 families that are picking them up later, so we got them all picked up today. We also announced our top sellers, and in 4th place was Morgan Metzler, who sold 25 boxes of cookies, 25 packs of cookies. 3rd place was Zach Smith, who did 27. 2nd place, there was a tie with Cameron Riley and Emma Ayers that sold 35 boxes. And 1st place was Logan Young, who sold 37 boxes. And whatever they sold, they would get money off their trip, but then the top sellers that I just mentioned will get a little extra from the company off the trip. We want to congratulate our National Junior Honor Society for receiving the Gorham Grant from the Hampstead Garden Club. Their goal is to create a raised bed vegetable garden in the courtyard, and they're working with Mrs. Howard for that. And they're also pairing up with Mrs. Griffin in our food science lab, and they're all trying to grow and provide fresh vegetables for us, and they'll be learning to cook the produce. Elliot Crispo is a 7th grader who is our Geography Bee winner for our school, and he is heading to the state Geography Bee on March 27th. We had our Quarter 2 Hawk Awards, which is always fun. It's one of our favorite days. We have a blast at our Hawk Awards. All of our staff recognize students who go above and beyond with respect, responsibility, and relationships. And they're given a certificate, a letter of what the staff says about them, and a little token of appreciation from Toss and Sauce. The awards embodies the Hawk spirit of respect, responsibility, and relationships that we strive to instill in each and every one of our students. We do this at the end of each quarter, and we tweet out and put on our Facebook the pictures of the winners. So you can check that out on our Twitter account and our Facebook page. And the last thing is Mrs. Griffin applied for a grant through the New Hampshire Agriculture in the Classrooms. And we won. She applied last year, and we got all the stuff set up for this year. 8th grade students are very excited about the aquaponics system. It's completely up and running. Mr. Remillard helped with that as well. And there are 5 goldfish swimming in the tank and several different herbs growing on top. And if you haven't seen it, it's really a cool image to look at. And think that's it. Does anybody have any questions for me? All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Emma, I'm gonna have you go.
All right.
Thank you.
So January 14th through the 17th were midterms, and that ended the first semester. So then following midterms, the Tuesday after, NHS students and student council members were asked to help lead incoming 8th graders around the school and discuss the possible electives the students can take. January 29th through February 2nd, students from NHS and student council attended the LEAD conference in Washington, D.C. I was able to attend this conference, and it was an amazing experience. There were some really great speakers, and we also did a lot of sightseeing. The highlight for me was being able to sit in on the impeachment trial for about an hour. We also went to the White House, Library of Congress, and Pentagon, to name a few of the many interesting places we visited. January 18th through 20th, 28 students and 4 chaperones traveled to Quebec. This trip was made available to French students who were looking to experience a cultural immersion. Some of the highlights of the trip were the Plains of Abraham reenactment and the museum, and then the students explored Quebec City. Winter Dance was February 8th with a theme of Starry Night. Student Council put it on, and a special congratulations to Elizabeth Herron from Hampstead for taking lead on this event. On January 23rd, seniors who qualified were given the ability to register to vote to allow them to vote last Tuesday for the primary. This was put on by administration, and over 80 students were able to register. And the Milli Vanilli was last Wednesday, which is a lip sync competition. The class of 2020 put it on, and it had representation from clubs and groups from all over the school.
Great. Any questions? Thank you, Emma.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to current business, we have the deliberative session discussion. We had our deliberative, a couple of weeks ago now. It was pretty short and to the point, not too much discussion. Everything that we have presented previously was moved to, the ballot, without changes. I don't know if anyone has any comments about deliberative.
Yeah, just thank the public that did come out for
Yes.
coming out.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for those who came and asked questions and gave input. It's an important part of the process. Anyone else?
No, I think it went well.
Yeah.
$28 million budget, no one asked one question about it, so.
They just trust us that much that we are doing the right thing. It's true. Okay, next up we have the 2020-2021 draft 2 of the school district calendar. Mr. Flynn.
Good evening, everyone. So, I don't know if you remember many months ago, which we presented the first draft. At that point, we solicited feedback from the board. We were still waiting for Pinkerton's calendar to be approved by their board, and we solicited some feedback from our unions. So, a couple of the highlights you'll notice in the calendar. One, I think it's important, is you'll see that there's no half-days anymore. Two things, we've heard a lot from parents and the challenge it can be in scheduling childcare on a half-day, but also from our own staff, how challenging it can be to try and squeeze, I use the word squeeze, teach and then professionally develop. It can be exhausting and challenging on our end for those days. So in working with them, you'll notice that there's no more half-days. That will help us really design our professional development more towards the beginning of the year and use those full days to our full advantage. Second part, Mr. Sweeney himself was talking about November. So we're going to try something a little bit different. We moved our parent-teacher conferences. It was originally scheduled for that second week, and it became a weird, I don't know if you remember, it was partial week 1, then week 2, then week 3. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to have the parent-teacher conferences on election day. So we figured the building's going to be closed anyways, and if you're going to vote, you're going to be here anyways, so you can do your parent-teacher conference and also vote at the same time. So you'll notice that that day shifted to November 3rd. That's where those shifted. And then you'll notice a little bit different of a start time. Feedback from everyone involved. We initially had started September, but then we got Pinkerton's calendar and they bumped it back as well. So you'll see that we're having 2 days in August, followed by four days 4 days and then moving forward, which shifts the end of the year. You'll notice, I think initially last time we were getting out that almost that 3.5 week. It was the following week. Now you notice the last day is the 16th, which is tentatively an early release day, and then we moved professional development day to then as well. On the next page, you'll see the Pinkerton calendar. Not that they determine what we do, but we determine what's going to work best for families. You know, if you have a middle schooler and a high schooler, the 23rd was one of those debates. Pinkerton has school on the 23rd. We initially did not. If you're going to have one kid out or one kid go to school, you might as well have both kids go to school sometimes. So you'll notice that we do have a school day on that day, the 23rd, which also bumped our end of year up as well. So those were the significant changes. Any questions?
No, I mean, I have to say, I think this is a good balance. So how you guys looked at this and changed it around a little bit. I like the creativity. I like the moving stuff to election day and helping with that weird November scheduling that is always difficult. Yeah. Anyone else? Dr. Messenger?
We're looking for a motion to approve.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the District 2020 to 2021 school calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Before Mr. Flynn goes, while
Yes.
we're talking about calendars and events, several people had great ideas they shared with us about, trying to get all of our events into a calendar and somehow published so that parents could plan. And, most of our events we know, you hear? It's okay? Sound okay?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
in the back, sorry.
Most of our parents, most of our events, we have a pretty good idea exactly when they're going to be during the year, their annual events and those sorts of things. So we asked Mr. Flynn, Director Mr. Flynn, to kind of try to put together, and that's if you want to jump in.
Yeah,
talk a little bit
so
about that.
we met as a team and been working with Dr. Metzler. We will have everything posted for March until the end of the year. So every event, meaning if it's a 4th grade event or graduation, everything's posted. There are some that will be on there that say tentative, and that's just making sure, but at least you can plan and project what the end of the year will look like for both buildings if you have students in both. We'll have that online by March. We're going to finalize it, our last review this week, and then next week, I think I am the only one in. I will be working on that next week to get that online. So, but it's been a great effort. The admin really came through. I asked for dates, whether it was tentative or firm, and we put it on there so that the families can plan for sure.
Okay, so we have so many events, and sometimes it impacts families because there's events at the central school and the middle school. So that coordination is important. It's also important, obviously, with the church in terms of parking and staff availability. So, I commend you for being able to kind of get people to the table to commit well in advance. And our hope is moving forward, next year we'll be able to have something like this that really starts much earlier and kind of goes through the course of the year. So some things.
That's the goal
and
for
as
the
we-
summer work. Yep.
yeah, and as we can remove tentative and put exact times on there, that'll be great too. So again, thank you for pulling that together, and thank you for those that brought that to our attention as something that the community was really looking for. And so that was helpful in our planning as well. So
Thank you. Appreciate your efforts, and I know that a lot of families in town will appreciate it also, so
Yeah.
that they can plan vacation
It's
schedules.
my first time living through this with Hampstead this end of the year, and it was amazing what they do, what the buildings do. So a lot of exciting things that are going to be happening in the next couple of months.
So one last thing before you go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So just, at a later date, we want to talk more about Thought Exchange, but I got really excited about Thought Exchange, and it's a new program that we're using to help with professional development. So if you could just
Yeah.
really quickly, a minute or two.
I'll give you a quick overview. Typically in the past, professional development days were prescribed, I'll use the word. They were designed in the summer, and basically you had your schedule throughout the whole year. With the new stipend positions, with the help from them, Thought Exchange solicits information back. So anyone can go on and post what they want to do. On February 11th is the first time we used it. So teachers would go on, and once they CPR, teacher lists, I want to be trained in CPR first aid. If becomes part of the exchange, and then the next person that goes on can rate 1 to 5, whether they agree, disagree, they can add their own things. So after the 5-day window we had it open, we close it, and then we're able to pull the information and see what was important to the teachers. It was overwhelming the amount of people that wanted to be trained in CPR and first aid, but never had the time because it was before or after school, that type of stuff. So to give you an example, what we did is we split the district in the morning and the afternoon because it's a 3.5-hour session. So now 95% of our professional staff are all trained in CPR and first aid. But from there, it also solicited information on what else they needed from us or wanted. And we were able to personalize the schedules for the morning and the afternoon and the opposite. And we had outstanding feedback from the staff that A, we listened. I know that sounds silly, but we listened. B, designed it around them. So, you know, it's a give and take where there's things and needs that we need to meet, and that's going to happen. But there's also time that we're going to ask what they need and want, and that's what we provided.
It's great, to keep it very simple, plan, prioritize, execute. And so, that level of support for our classroom teachers, for them to be able to define exactly what they need or describe what they need for support through this tool has been very helpful. So I'm glad that it's off to a good start, and at some point in the future, we probably want to come in and some sort of demonstration where we can have our own thought exchange. It's something you can do pretty
Absolutely.
quickly.
It's a good idea.
And so that's something for a future agenda, but thank you.
Yeah.
Great,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Going a little out of order, Mr. Dowd, you have an item for us, transfer to bring forward, I believe?
I do. I have a budget transfer request in pursuant to policy DJB, policy transfers requests that exceed $5,000 or more require board approval. So I'm requesting a transfer of $61,200, all within the special education function from, well, it's going to be going to contracted services, and it's from our special education tuitions. That's tuition we pay typically to other schools. Pinkerton would be one of those schools in particular. The reason for the request is that we are in need of services beyond our original budget anticipation needs. And among those are our physical therapy, which was outsourced by design, but we've had a higher need than expected. So when you outsource and you have to have more support, it costs a bit more than you anticipate. And we have occupational therapy, which we'll need to cover for an anticipated leave through outside services. Behavioral services, so that's something that we've been outsourcing due to really a lack of candidates we had. And of course, when you have a heightened need for behavioral services that you're contracting out, again, the cost is greater. And the same goes for vision and hearing services. We have an unanticipated demand there, which can be supported under the current budget in that line item. So the budget request is to move $61,200 to the 330 account under the 1200 function code from the 563 tuitions account. And I have a sample motion up on the page.
I saw that, that's fantastic. We'll do a motion and then we can discuss. Can I have a motion to approve the budget transfer request of the CFO identified in the CFO's February 18th memo?
So moved.
Okay.
Any discussion or questions for Mr. Dowd? Yeah.
I just have a question about, I'm assuming that Karen Gallagher has reviewed all these transfers and
Yes.
it's enough to actually meet the needs that we have coming.
I think so.
Okay.
It's estimated to get us through the year.
Well, you're the expert in this field, so I wanted to make sure that this is, had your stamp of approval on it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
What about for the following year? We just budgeted, is this gonna impact next year's budgets?
It's hard to predict. A lot of things that occur within the department are unknowns from year to year. That's always the case. So, for example, Mr. Dowd said, the ECBAs, we tried to fill the position and couldn't, so we contract out. It's at a much higher rate. We don't always anticipate when people are gonna go out on leave for various reasons, so it's hard to know.
Thank you. But, that being said, we're comfortable with where we are as far as what we presented to this point for next year.
Yeah.
Budgeting 18 months in advance. So we're in good shape for the shape we're in right now. And we'll address those issues as they come up.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Duff.
Thank you.
Okay, jumping back. We are on policies second read for JLCC, JJIB, KFA, IJO, KLBA, and KEC. I'll take a few minutes to review and then we can have a motion, please.
I move that we accept on second read and for adoption policies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as presented.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Next up on our agenda is related to SAU reorganization in the event of Timberlane Regional School District withdrawal, which will be up for a vote next month. We have been having discussions, and this is another piece to prepare us should we need should we be faced with reorganization. I am going to ask that we go into a non-public session to discuss this, and I'm gonna ask for that under 91A:3, paragraph 2, C, reputation, and L, I think it's L, for legal. It's L, right? Yeah. Can I have a motion to, what? No, we're gonna do it now.
Okay.
I need a motion first.
So moved.
Second.
Melissa, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Giard?
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
And Mrs. Usenko?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm gonna ask, if it's okay, if we could have the business administrator join us for this discussion, primarily because there are some financial issues
Yes.
that we'd like to address.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone else.
Everyone else.
Thank you. Thank you. Everyone else is excused, yes. Okay, we are back in public session. Next up, we have board comments and correspondence. David, do you have anything?
No comments right now?
Jim?
I'm good, thank you.
No?
Nothing.
I don't think I have anything. I'm trying to remember if I've done, I don't think I've done anything since, go ahead, sorry.
No, I'm good.
Well, that was easy. Next up, we have consent agenda. Dr. Metzler.
Well, first, I wanted to add this when Emma made her report about Pinkerton Academy, but I didn't know when was the best time, so I just kind of let that go. But so Pinkerton Academy is having a graduate challenge or graduation challenge, and that's on the 13th and 14th of April. And so it's an opportunity for anybody in the Hampstead School District that's participated, contributed, whether teachers, paras, principals, whatever, in their educational experience from preschool, kindergarten, all the way up to grade 12. Those are 2 full-day experiences, and so they're dividing the staff. So Mike Flynn has that. He's going to be sending that out to staff, and anybody that's interested, and we're going to support somehow, some way, if people want to be there for the day for our graduating class. I'm not sure if this is a new initiative. This is the first time that I've been invited, so I'm going to go on one of the days, hopefully, and like Mr. Flinzer will go on the other one with some staff. So we'll have an opportunity to participate with the graduating class. And I think this is something Dr. Powers has brought as something new, so that other people from the sending towns have an opportunity to celebrate with the graduating class. So I commend Dr. Powers and Mr. Lee for their work with this, and hopefully we'll get some Hampstead folks to want to go over there and spend the day. So that's pretty good. I also wanted to let you know that I think both Blizzard Bags 3 and 4 happened since our last meeting, so both were successful, as you well know. But what I was really proud of, I'm always proud of, students participate well over 90% every time in Hampstead, but staff were getting 100% participation, and that's huge. I mean, 100% of the staff participating each time, so that was a nice bonus, and so I'd like to commend all of our staff here, and certainly our students and parents. We have one more to go. I have had some pressure, per se, to say we'd like a traditional snow day, one without a blizzard bag, so trying to work that out. Kara Gordon with HEA was all about that, so we'll not make any promises, but we've made promises. So perhaps if we have any more snow days, we'll be able to give a good old-fashioned traditional one next. I am proud to let you know that Nicole Fassett, an elementary teacher here, that you approved a leave, has rescinded that leave, and she's going to be back in 2021, so I appreciate your support with that. I know she's excited, and she's planning on getting back here and is making plans with Principal Collins in terms of what's the best fit and how to transition back. So we wish Nicole and her daughter the best as they come back to rejoin her family here in Hampstead. We have a 3-year risk ratio analysis of disproportionality. In your packets, as an attachment to Karen Gallagher's director's report, is a letter about a 3-year analysis conducted by the DOE to determine if districts had a significant disproportionality in the areas of identification, placement, and disciplinary actions. Hampstead District, again, has had no significant findings, which we're very proud of, and certainly under Karen Gallagher's leadership, along with our special ed department, it's just been pretty incredible. In addition to your letter in your packets are the results for the federal fiscal year 2018 3-year analysis for the Hampstead School District. So again, congratulations to Karen Gallagher, her department, and certainly everybody that works providing services to the students here in Hampstead. They do a great job. The Pinkerton Board of Trustees, I mentioned this briefly. They're doing some work based on a NEASC and accreditation report. As you know, NEASC is a team that comes in and identifies your strengths and your weaknesses. They identified some building weaknesses. So they were doing some work with their social studies wing to kind of bring that up to speed with the accreditation report. So when you have an opportunity, maybe a discussion, at some point, they'd be looking for some support from the Hampstead School District about that work. There was some discussion at their dinner, and that I was at. Anytime new projects get brought up, but I think knowing NEASC the way I know NEASC and accreditation reports, and Dr. Powers in terms of his responsibility to respond in kind to recommendations that they make, that's certainly something that Pinkerton Academy needs, and I'd love for Hampstead to be able to support it. If you need more information or a little more research, I'll certainly be able to provide that in the near future. But any support that we can give Dr. Powers and certainly the Board of Trustees in any projects that they feel are necessary, especially where an outside group comes in and identifies strengths and weaknesses, very much appreciated. So something gives consideration as we move forward. Let's see. We mentioned earlier this evening, we have 95% of the professional staff is trained in CPR. During the February 11th Professional Development Day, staff was asked for and completed the CPR first aid training. So again, we have 95% of our staff is trained, and that's pretty incredible. Again, as we talk about what we can do and what we will do for our students, being trained in CPR and first aid is certainly responsible. Again, I commend the staff and certainly leadership here in the buildings for having that done. We also mentioned a school combined calendar events. After the break, the combined calendar events for the central school and middle school will be posted for all events from March through the end of the year. Parents will be able to look ahead for important dates and locations for events such as school concerts, PTSA board meetings, HMS Hawk Awards, HCS bingo for books, field trips, and graduation, among many other things. So be sure to check out that district website for more information, and that should be available right after the break. Again, we're working on that, I know I say this each meeting, but we should put it on the agenda coming up, that behavior management plan, so we get some sort of a executive summary or something for you, or maybe a more lengthy presentation on how we're managing students and certainly their behavior in our buildings. The IDEA funds misallocation, that, there has been some work with the superintendent from Chester. He's got an opportunity, as Superintendent Underwood, to meet with the Commissioner of Education. I know, our CFO, Mr. Dowd, is also gonna attend on our behalf. So they're chasing that money. They're holding they're holding the commissioner and certainly responsible. So we'll again, I really appreciate Superintendent from Chester, his work on this, and certainly with Jeff's work on this to get that money. It's Hampstead's money, it's Chester's money, they deserve their money.
Mhm.
So we'll work on that. So that's what I have for you in terms of a superintendent's report. We do not have a personnel report, and you have your financial documents, so I guess, one motion to approve the consent agenda would be appreciated.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or further questions? All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is other business or old business. I do want to bring something up under other business, mostly because this just came about, some final action came about today. Last regular meeting that we had a motion to allow the chair to contact Hampstead's lawyer, legal representation, to discuss a hostile work environment investigative report into SAU school board members, which we are currently being denied access to see. We talked about it more in depth at that meeting, but so to follow up on that, our attorney reached out to the SAU board attorney to request formally that Hampstead members be given access, and making this the point that as board members, we have a fiduciary responsibility. And if we don't know what liabilities we may have in front of us, just in a regular year, that's important. In a year that we're potentially facing withdrawal, there's even more importance there. So our attorney did meet with the attorney from the SAU board, and that request was denied. The next piece of action was to submit a formal right-to-know request written by our attorney to the SAU board attorney. And we got word mid-afternoon today that that had been denied as well. So with that being the case, I'd like to maybe talk about a motion for further legal action. So just I think you may have a motion for that.
I do. Basically, in light of the fact that our request, as Madam Chair has said, our request to gain access to the report under SAU 55 board members' rights has been denied, as well as our request under the Right to Know law, RSA 91A, I move that we, the Hampstead School Board, authorize and direct our legal counsel, Wadley, Starr and Peters, PLLC, to take the legal action necessary on behalf of the Hampstead School District and the board to gain access pursuant to RSA 91A, the Right to Know law, to the investigative report submitted by attorney Naomi Butterfield regarding allegations and claims made against the SAU 55 board and certain individual members.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion before we vote, or comments that anyone would like to discuss? Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you. So we will direct our attorney to move forward. I don't have any other business or old business. Does anyone else have anything they want to discuss? I do not think we have a need for another non-public. We already covered that. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.